Welcome back, everyone. How's everybody feeling out there? Are you guys pumped for today's event? We have our final two teams matched up and ready to go on to win $75,000 in a trip to the grand finals in April in Warsaw, Poland. If that isn't any incentive, I don't know what is. We're having a hell of a time here today. We also have a match coming up next between the two teams that lost those first and second matches. We have Team Noble going up against HWC. That is going to be, there might be some contention in there for some league points, so it's going to be an important match. So stay tuned for that as well. And make sure you're following us on social media using the hashtag WGLNA Finals. And hopefully you're tweeting along, watching my tweets, because I'm tweeting this live as I'm hosting. There's nothing I can't do. I'm a one-man show, except I need all the people playing, or else there wouldn't be a show, so I'm technically not. But one man who is a one-man show is Meadowhawk, who is standing by with a special guest.
Thank you, Jose. We are here with the honored Dwight D. Eisenhower from Get Flanked at a Silver League. His road to the Gold League, very similar to mine. How has it been for you so far, watching what's going on tonight, the games? Are you getting pumped to get into Gold League? How are you feeling right now?
We're absolutely stoked. Our 10 players are ready. We can't wait to be hopefully up here on stage and take it to the rest of the teams.
Excellent. Now, you guys, from what I understand, went from open, totally skipped bronze. We had to go through bronze, up into silver, stayed in silver for 3 seasons, and now you're into gold. What tweaks did you have to make in those 3 seasons of silver? What did you learn? How did you place second in order to get here in gold?
Well, from our jump, we went from 742 to 7x56, and now we're in the layout we have now. So it was just adjusting ourselves to 10s and finding the current meta. When you have something that changes so often, you have to make changes in your lineups, changes in strats, and you just have to find the right way to play maps, especially with the whole attack-defense layout. I think it's been great, but I think we've adjusted properly, and hey, we're stoked for Gold League next season.
It's going to be awesome. I hope to see you and play you in Gold League. Right now, we're back to Christian and Toma.
Christian and Toma and David and Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to those of you who it is good evening to. Good afternoon to the rest of you. Good morning, maybe even to some. And welcome back. We have an exciting little treat for you guys. It is the 3rd and 4th place match. We didn't even think we were going to be able to show this because we thought the first 2 matches were going to go so long, and then we're going to go into the finals, and that's all we're going to have time for. But Eclipse and Simp really made a pretty quick work of these 2 teams, Noble and High Voltage, so we're going to be able to see this. Now, the importance right now, I've heard so much about on Noble, is this one of those games that if they need to win this to even have that chance at the grand finals?
It's a very complicated process to decide exactly who gets to go there due to the overall point scheme. It largely relies on some other teams as well. I believe if Eclipse wins the overall position, I think that starts putting them in a much tighter situation overall, but I still think they get to go as long as they beat High Voltage.
Okay.
We'll have to check on that a little bit here as well, but who would have thought?
No.
High Voltage and Noble will be playing for the 3rd and 4th match. Teams we all expected to play for 1st and 2nd going into the actual playoffs. So we're halfway through the regular season. Teams that have been dominant, the titans of the league up until that point.
1st and 2nd.
The finalists of last season.
Yeah, here's the thing, too. It's the kind of the funny maybe irony about this is now we're going to see a rematch of the Season 1 finals. Now, during the regular season, when Noble faced off against High Voltage, I think they beat them 5-1. So it was almost like both the teams were kind of going through, and they even showed their dominance there. So look, going into this this match between these 2 teams, who you kind of give that edge on, having seen them play both today?
It's going to be very difficult. I feel like Noble played a better game overall in their first set than High Voltage did, but maybe that's a map selection thing. I mean, High Voltage allowed Simp to play Cliff. That is not something I would expect a mistake to happen twice here. It looks like we're going to be starting off on Himmelsdorf. Both teams are relatively even on Himmelsdorf in the season, but this was the map that they started with last season finals that Noble ran away with the entire first set on. So perhaps we might be looking at the same thing again, but for everybody's sake, High Voltage in particular, let's hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, last time, what an amazing thing, because we were like, oh, here comes the finals. These are the top 2 teams, and it was a 5-0 and like a 5-1, 5-2. I mean, so it's it seems like these teams either they're like, hey, we're on our A game right now, or it's like, we're kind of struggling in a lot of areas. So it'll be interesting to see if both these teams can kind of give an even head-to-head fight. It will be the first time, I guess, technically, I've seen both these teams do that, because whenever they faced off, it's been a clean sweep either on one side or on the other. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, let us know who you think is going to win between High Voltage, between Noble Noble for the 3rd and 4th place. And if you guys are following on in fantasy, this is a very important match for you if you're right so far up to this point, which would be kind of shocking because, again, 50% of the team, over 50% thought Noble was going to beat Eclipse, and now Eclipse is going on to be one of the finalists facing off against Simp for that $75,000. So if you guys are following along, let us know who you think is going to win. Let's go ahead and pull up the player screen for both of these. The pre-game player screen for both of these teams between Noble and High Voltage here to kind of look at their maps, look at the tanks they choose, look at their top scoring team members.
Here we are with a WGL Fantasy Match preview. This is Noble and High Voltage.
Way more clean.
Both teams have played Steps the most. Both teams have used the T22 the most. Canadian Impact, leading scorer for Noble Blue Boys, captain MVP, and leading scorer for High Voltage.
That is right indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do have Fubar. We have Jose up there with comps again for the side of Noble. So Fubar, take it away.
Here once again with comps. Unfortunately, that first match didn't go as well as you guys had hoped, but you're still in it. Still points on the line going up against HWC. How are you guys going to approach this match?
Well, we're going to play our game. I mean, the last match, we let Eclipse play their game, and we fell into their traps, and they came over with the overall victory. So this time, we'll learn from our mistakes.
So tell me a little bit about, how you guys select which tanks you're going to choose, because there are many different tanks. There's 10 tiers of tanks. Do you guys have a particular set of people who are good with certain tanks, or you guys just good with every single tank and there's nothing that can stop you?
Well, to be successful in this league, I mean, we have to select players that are versatile and they can play pretty much everything. So that's what we sort of have to build our team around, is like cohesion with different tanks, different roles, be able to play whatever type of tank we want to play.
Now, as the team coach, head captain right now, you're talking like, is it sad that you're not back there playing? I mean, do you have that inkling? You wish that you were back there throwing down, smoldering some foes?
No, not really. I mean, my job is to manage this team, and I'll try to do that to my best of my ability. And it's their job to play. So when it comes to game time, it's on their shoulders.
It's all on their shoulders. The weight of a tank. You know how much a T22 weighs? 22 tons.
No.
T22. No? Could be. I don't know. It might be right. You know who does know, though? Meadowhawk knows, and he's standing by with HWC.
Thanks, Jose. We are rotating things around here over at High Voltage. I'm here with KT. Now, KT, a little bit of an unusual situation here. You guys are playing back-to-back matches. What kind of prep goes into that? Do you guys have stuff planned for these kind of situations where you don't have the time like Noble's had to think about their next match?
Well, a big benefit right now is that the two maps that we're not playing, we didn't play previously. So we don't really have to worry about revealing too much and, kind of expecting hard counters or anything like that. So I think that's going to work into our favor. So that's really not on our minds right now, playing back-to-back matches. I'm excited. I think we're pumped up. So we're ready to do this.
Excellent. So you guys have the chance, to play spoilers or, to take some points from Noble. How is that going to affect your play? Are you nervous? Do you know that? Do you have any strategies that you really need to bring in order to beat Noble tonight?
Overall, this is kind of a redemption thing for us, considering the finals last season. I mean, I wasn't with HWC in LA, but this is a pretty big rematch for us, and we're going to take it all the way.
It should be very exciting. This match, even though it is between some teams that have had some troubles tonight, is still very big. Christian and David will tell you all about that right now.
Thank you so much, Meadowhawk. Now, this is one of the things, is whenever I have a question about a tank, the person to ask is David Williams. So, David, how much does a T22 weigh?
35.7 tons.
All right, there you go. Someone check it against right now all the knowledge that we have on the internet right now in chat. Let us know if David is right, if David is wrong.
If it was French, he'd be right on.
Yeah,
AMX 50P, how much does it weigh? 50 tons.
50 tons.
So, good guess.
Yeah,
good guess.
It was a fair enough effort. It's definitely more than I could have done as well. So now, I heard Oscar, the man, got to whisper some amazing words of affirmation to you. Can you share us with that?
One of the people who decides exactly or breaks down the points here. So, High Voltage is out. No grand finals for them, however, the grand finals in Poland. However, they do have the chance to also knock out Noble. If Noble wins this match, then Noble will still get to go. If they do not, they will not. Meanwhile, for the overall first and second place, that's just whoever wins.
Okay, so there you guys have it. So it's really, if Noble wins this, They get it. If they don't, they don't. And then whoever wins with the final match between Eclipse and Simp. So there is so much on the line for Noble.
I think it's the first finals we've had where both of the final matches
who's gonna
decide
make it.
who gets to go to the grand
Seriously,
finals.
what a fantastic time to be alive right now, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoying some good old World of Tanks here live in Las Vegas. These guys, again, battling out for $75,000, the title of the WGLNA Season 2 Gold League champions. And again, battling out now literally to go to Poland for the finals event. Again, can I talk to me about that experience for you? You said you enjoyed meeting all the players. You loved kind of representing the region in that game. What are some other highlights, or what was maybe kind of the struggles when you were there?
Well, you also get to, I mean, we'll talk about the highlights. I mean, the struggles
it's all great.
Whatever.
It's all
I mean,
sweet
that
and
happens
awesome.
all the time. That's just live play. You learn to deal with it relatively quickly.
Okay.
I mean, and then there's always foreign stuff, right? You've traveled to foreign countries, and maybe you don't like the food,
Jet
maybe you don't,
lag.
whatever. Sometimes some people do. I believe Blue Boys
Barfing.
only eats chicken when he travels. Doesn't matter what.
Wow.
Like chicken soup,
Back
chicken
some chicken.
burrito, whatever. Wherever he goes, it's
Smart.
only chicken. So,
Everything tastes like chicken.
I mean, to him. So
Fair enough, fair enough.
some of the highlights are you get to meet a lot of the people that are big community figures. I mean, you were able to meet Serb and some of them. I mean, I met a lot of these people throughout a lot of the events because I've been around for a long time. But for a lot of these players who haven't had a lot of those unique opportunities, it might be the first time they actually get to shake
awesome.
Victor's hand.
That's awesome.
It's a great situation to be in. Plus, like I said before, there's just so much talent, so many teams. You get to watch live Navi play against somebody they might not usually
be
play
sweet.
against. You get to see how your own teams or how other teams from your region will fare against some of these other Titans as well. It's very easy to look at these different regions and just assume what things will come up with. But when you put everybody under the same lights, you'd be surprised how fast a
Crazy
lot of
stuff
things
happens.
equalize.
Well, we've seen again kind of the predictions going into the night. There's been so many upsets. Just even the first match with Eclipse really dominating Noble there, and that's kind of if that can happen here in this region, then you take it over the world. I can imagine just kind of chaos.
It's the same game no matter where you go.
Multiplying in that sense. So let's talk about now that we've seen Noble and High Voltage play both losing. High Voltage again, like Meadowhawk said, a back-to-back game here. Do you think that's going to affect a lot? Is that kind of just grueling on their mentality?
Yes, I've done this before as well, and by the time you get around to that second set,
I just feel like,
it is an absolute
why?
struggle just to sit down at the computer sometimes. I mean, especially if you have kind of a heartbreaking defeat. Like, I don't know exactly how they handled it to get to talk to anybody, but if that was a very, very rough loss, which a 5-1 usually does feel like that, it can be just an absolute marathon to have to play again.
Well, and again, one of the things that is also kind of got to be in their minds is what they're playing for. So now they're not playing for a trip to the grand finals. They're not playing for a final spot here for tonight. So really, they're just playing to stop Noble from making it to the grand finals.
Well, there's also more prize money for them.
Sure.
So, which is not insignificant
I totally
whatsoever.
forgot. Yeah. Not just so you know, not just first place makes money. Everyone makes money for getting it this far. They're all going to take home a nice prize. But you're right. You're right.
So there's the cash, there's the pride, which is usually the number one thing for everybody. I mean, especially when you come out, you don't play as well as you want to. You play in the next set. You want to do as best as you can, just to kind of show off what you could have done in the first
Like, hey,
game.
this is what we were
The first
gonna
game
do.
didn't go the way it should, but this one will.
Okay, all right. So there is a lot on the line here for the pride. We've kind of talked about the competition, right? The competitive nature of things, and a lot of these players obviously have it to make it this far. How important do you kind of rate that in a player? Right, you're playing World of Tanks, you're playing really any game, and you kind of want to take it to that next level. Where do you see competition? Where do you see that competitive drive? How important is that to have?
It's absolutely vital, but I always like to look back on it as two different types of competitive drives. There's the type where all you want to do is win.
Okay.
And then there's the type where you want to be the best
Improve.
at what you do. And the latter is far more valuable. If you hang all of your hopes on winning, you've got to rely on 6 other people. That means if you say you get denied your dream of winning, what your expectation is,
Everything's not correct.
and that's not your fault,
Right.
you're going to be upset with everybody else. But
Right.
if you're only focused on playing the best that you can, it's only on you. If you play poorly, I mean, you're going to kick yourself for that no matter what.
Sure.
So in that instance, it's just, well, we lost. I played the best that I can. It's unfortunate that we didn't do the best that we could overall as a team, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to attack my teammates. I'm not going to get too stressed about it. Things happen, and teams that look at it that way tend to be far more resilient. I mean, we saw Eclipse just absolutely come
Their
out of the
mentality.
gate fantastically. Simp's in a very similar situation. I mean, a lot of those guys have had crushing defeats. They've had glorious victories. They've been through the ringer, and eventually you just get to a point where it's like, I don't know, we're going to go play. I really hope I play well.
See what happens.
And that's it. And that's part of what it always was for me. I feel like I got a little bit distracted with the overall grand goal of winning things.
Win,
but
yeah.
in the beginning, it was all about what I felt made me competitive to begin with was the desire to be the best at my specific role. And I think that's always the best situation you can get, the best recruit you can get.
So talking about the specific role in World of Tanks, right? You've got the scouts, you've got the artillery, you've got the heavy, the heavy guns, the heavy tanks. What you like scouting, right? We talked about how that was a really fun role for you to play.
I like it all, but that's the one I kind of settled into the most. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like there's a personality draw to any certain role? Because in other games, right? I'm definitely this type of player. I'm definitely this type of player. What do you see that as in World of Tanks?
Definitely, there's a lot of little factors that go into that, and it's hard to classify any specific tank or any specific position as something. It's more relatable to maybe perhaps the game of soccer, where everybody is essentially still playing the same job, but they're given different positions on the field. And if they have to fall back, well, they're now all defenders. And if everybody starts pushing forward, some people pull up a little bit. Now they're a little bit strikers. I'm not going to go too far down with this this metaphor here, but it's very similar. Anybody can do anything, aside from a very select group of people, and it just depends on the circumstance, and that is what it all comes down to. If you build your plans appropriately, and you are that capable, you can pass that kind of thing, you don't have anybody who's so dedicated in any sort of role, then you are going to perform better than other people who are far more rigid in how they perform.
Awesome. There you guys have a nice little breakdown of World of Tanks there from the one and only David Williams himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the players are all ready. Their tanks are all loaded in. It is High Voltage versus Noble. What is on the line for Noble is a chance to the grand finals. They have to win this match to take it. Let's see if they can find it, or will High Voltage take it away from them? Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble, on offense to start out here, 250Bs, 2215s, an IS-4, a 183 and an AMX 1390 for High Voltage, a 50B, 2215s, a T22, an E3, a W100, and an IS-3.
All right, here starting out on Himmelsdorf. So the first time that we've seen this map for the finals. David, would you say Himmelsdorf is a map that we have played enough, or these teams have played enough to kind of get this succinct strategy down? Do you think this is a smart choice from either of these teams to bring in?
That's just a hard overall kind of comment to elaborate on.
Sure.
As Himmelsdorf is essentially the great equalizer. It's just whoever plays the best on it there. Like you said, there's not a whole lot of strategic variance most of the time, but there can be. And you basically boil it down to a couple different threat zones that you have to learn how to handle. And from there, it's just looking at the enemy lineup, trying to figure out how they're trying to approach it.
Sure.
And either interrupting it or trying to set a trap for a particular place, playing keep away. Say somebody has to close the distance to really have reliable shots. Say they do a lot of damage per shot, but it's relatively inaccurate, or they're firing heat, so it doesn't penetrate as easily from a distance. The more distance you can keep from them without sacrificing key positions, the better. So it just kind of expands from there. But Noble starting to push directly up the 8 line. High Voltage getting early intelligence on that, but not bringing it to bear, not getting any additional damage out of it. And that could be a gigantic strategic failure overall. Birththief letting some shots go in the back out of his W100. Not sure what that's about. Didn't look like he made any connections here. But Germ taking just a little bit. I see, all the way down there in the 1390 there in the back. And he's going to get away anyway. So Bird now on the reload. Plenty of time to come back from that. High Voltage needing to start their rotations and get into a place where they can actually deal with Noble. Otherwise, they're going to give up an early win just based on isolation alone.
Yeah, I'll say a lot of those members over there on the west. We have 2 5Bs, a 50B, that T22 all the way down there in the south. Only 3 tanks really seem like and deal with the northern cap. If you're Noble, right, when you poke over this corner, maybe you get shot from all hacks, maybe you get shot from Arclet. What is your confidence level knowing that T22 down the south to feel like you might have an overmatch here in the north?
It really depends. The T22 is mostly going to come up from the 0 line, so that's not necessarily his overall realm of concern. He has one job. It's more the caller that has to worry about significant overmatches and where to position the tanks. Everybody else is mostly just trying to figure out how to last as long as possible or make positive trades from where they're at. On a map like Himmelsdorf, there's a lot less overall team cohesion just because the distances of engagement zones are so far apart. And one shot going into wall hacks pretty early here, 610. Not a whole lot of High Voltage around to help prevent that from happening again.
All right, they're 384 now going into that IS-3. Wall hacks has to be careful. Looks like he might be moving around the corner to get to safety. Arclet now being spotted out, so Noble knows where 2 of the members are. The rest now is still pretty hidden. Ox Thief now being spotted out, as you guys can see by Canadian Impact there. Blue Boys captain, that T22, has made his way all the way to the F6, F7 position, going up that 789 road there. And Noble are now getting surrounded. They've got to be careful. If High Voltage starts coming in here, they're going to have to fight a front on all sides, and I'm assuming High Voltage will have that advantage.
High Voltage is stepping directly into the B line, which is part of what Noble wants them to do. Both 50Bs almost entirely clipped and ready to dump into that exact area. This is what Noble wants them to do. High Voltage may be giving up this match based on that positioning alone. Not enough exploratory measures or concern about the zero line. And damage is already starting to get sent back and forth.
All right, right now, High Woltage starting to go through. As you can see, Germ yelling out that they're pushing, and he is not wrong here as Tiger Thief Arclet now coming around the corner. Let's see how Noble's able to spawn. Dodo getting a nice shot there on Tiger Thief. Tiger Thief getting focused down, 2,400, and getting deleted there. Anthony, though, does find Germ a tank for a tank down exchange on both of the sides. Tox Thief takes down Marsh, and now Noble dropping down to just 5 tanks. High Voltage sitting pretty, but they are below in HP. Let's see what matters more. Is it the guns or is it the HP here on Himmelsdorf? 4 minutes and 22 seconds on the clock. High Voltage has neutralized the cap pressure that Noble had been applying. See what happens from here. David looking at these positions, and now as we go into Blue Boys captain and Oxthief against Canadian Impact. Oxthief trying to bounce block a shot there from Blue Boys, not being successful. Meanwhile, Dodo takes down Arclet. 801 right there going into Canadian Impact. 12-20. One more shot. He'll be going down. Blue Boys captain finds that one. Dodo finds Anthief. It is a back and forth here, ladies and gentlemen. Akula takes down Wall Hacks, leaving just Ox Thief and Bird Thief alive. Bird Thief is on the reload in that E100. He is not going to be able to do much here. Friction coming around the corner trying to help out. Blue Boys captain is one more shot away. I actually didn't even see that he was alive. He's in such low points of HP. Akula does take down Bird Thief, and now it is just 2 tanks against the 4 of Noble. Blue Boys captain holding on with just 35 points. Ox Thief is full health and he's fully loaded, but David, is that fully loaded 50B going to be able to turn this for the High Voltage?
Definitely not. He also has 2 fully loaded 50Bs to contend with. There is no way Ox is going to be able to convert this. And that's going to be the first loss for High Voltage in their 3rd, 4th place match here.
There it is. Noble picking up their first victory of this 3rd and 4th place match, one step closer to the grand finals. This is almost like a mini finals in and of itself, right? Because they are playing for that prize. It really is kind of the eyes on Noble to take this one home, to be able to make it. And I totally agree with you. It's got to be brutal for High Voltage right now, coming off of a loss, having to now then come in and play again back to back. Really not even getting able to. I mean, yes, they got to get up and walk around during the break, but they were right back in those same positions. They're on the same side. It's just not going to feel super encouraging for them. Now going down in Himmelsdorf, looking at the strategy coming out from Noble there. Maybe we can talk about this more as we go into the stats, because usually stats shine so much beautiful light on the statistics.
Well, the strategy is pretty straightforward there, but we will check them out right now. Ox Thief, fantastic game for him. He actually kept Blue Boys alive for an incredible amount of time by just body blocking, sharing his HP with his teammate. 37-32 out of him. Blue Boys also above 3,000. The 2 of them just putting in a great game. Everybody else about 1,000 or below, getting caught in a very awkward position, just getting absolutely ruined by Militant and Dodema, going back and forth in 250Bs, and there it is, 37-15 out of Dodema. 34-28 out of Militant with a perfect 10 shot. Beautiful.
Nicely done.
There, Militant. Friction with 24-55. Akula 19-35. Both of them extending that long enough for those 50Bs to come in. Also critical to the amount of damage that their teammates got. 18-83 out of Canadian Impact. Marsh and Germ mostly being the 2 that got taken out there in that initial push. And that's what it came down to, is those 2 50Bs were allowed to clip and come in from behind. High Voltage just stalled out in their push. Canadian Impact was able to tie up 2 tanks, both Blue Boys and Ox, for a very long period of time, and it was just all entirely in Noble's favor from the instant that High Voltage started trying to counter push against Noble without getting a lot more intel. If the T-22 had been sent around the zero line, they might have been in business, but just not well thought out there, or perhaps just not well executed, and not entirely sure. The W100 didn't even get in a whole lot of damage.
So the only thing to me, right, that I kind of saw there, which is why I actually thought High Voltage was an advantage, so maybe you can kind of explain to me why it wasn't the case, is Noble is now all up in the northern part of the cap. They're all kind of in that central area. High Voltage have been given the time to then surround them. And in my mind, if a fight breaks out, right, and the team that's coming in that surrounds, they're the ones who get to dictate the focus fire, and it's a little more difficult.
So yes, except on Himmelsdorf, there's so much HP, that's not as big of a deal. But the way that Noble was managing that is they're using essentially force multipliers or burst tanks, the 50Bs. 50Bs will get their 4 shots out very quickly, and then they need to reload. If those were single shot tanks up there, then that would have been High Voltage's game, because they only would have taken 1 or 2 shots of damage as everybody came around. But the 50Bs were able to put all 4 of their clip in.
Wow.
And then by the time they get down there, they're clipped again. So it's just the combination of positions and the tanks there that Noble was using that allowed Noble to really convert that very, very easily. And High Voltage just did not really have a chance for as long as they pushed in. The 183 getting a shot off right off the bat.
So it goes to show you, right, that even though in some situations High Voltage would have been in favor there, depending on the tank picks, and that's, we talked about the lineup, right? Looking initially at what does the enemy team have? Where can we exploit this? Oh, let's go all ball up into the north. If they come to take us down, well, then we're going to be at an advantage here because we have the autoloaders. Ladies and gentlemen, Noble now is up 1-0 against High Voltage. We're getting ready to go into the next battle here onto Himmelsdorf, which will be switching sides. So again, if you guys aren't familiar with how the format works, we go back and forth as far as attack, defense. And this has been a change we did, and both of us agree that it's a fantastic change indeed. You don't get that mentality slug of, oh, now I'm down 2 and I have to come back in 2. And so we'll see if that helps out Noble here, or if it helps out High Voltage. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle is about to get ready to begin. We're switching sides. Noble on defense, High Voltage on offense. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble, 2215s and IS4, T22, 2 W100s and an AMX 1390. For High Voltage, a 50B, 2215s and IS7, a T22, a 183 and an AMX 1390 of their own.
All right here, so not quite a mirror matchup, but a couple similar tanks here, both on the sides. You get the 5Bs, you get the T22s, 1390s. We'll see where High Voltage puts these tanks and how Noble can respond. High Voltage last time putting a lot of their members over on the west side. Really spreading out there. Normally we see here on Himmelsdorf defense, usually I think we're about to see Germ do that 1390, rush a guy over there into the F5, F6 position to try to get some proxy spots in 7-8, but he's actually waiting back. High Voltage doing a little bit more of a classic push. Now that tank destroyer, David, that they're bringing, the 183, where do you think that's going to be placed, and how do you feel like that is going to sway the battle for High Voltage?
I honestly don't think it'll sway the battle all that much. It's not going to necessarily get the best angles, unless Noble makes some significant mistakes. But on offense, it's a very peculiar tank to bring, unless you're doing essentially what Noble did last time, where while they were considerably on offense, they're also on defense to a certain extent, right? They take their position, then they're just defending their cap pressure. They were able to dictate the fact that High Voltage will have to come to them, and thus the 183 will get one shot in before everybody focuses it, which is exactly what happened, right? He just didn't get a full damage shot. That would have made a big difference. But the position that Arclet's in, maybe he'll get a one shot on Germ, maybe he won't. We'll see here in just a second as Tiger and Bird start to move in to try and focus on Canadian Impact, and Thief also trying to help them out. And Noble spread a little bit across the entire northwestern part of the map. Right now, High Voltage has an incredible amount of map control, but the separation is a little bit a cause for concern.
All right, here we'll see if High Voltage can start turning the positions into a victory. Well, Noble will be able to hold out again. Noble is on defense. They just got to stay alive for 6 minutes and 20 seconds, or be able to take out every single member of the enemy team, which in this case is High Voltage. Marsh taking about 400 points of damage there in that E100. So, and now David, let's talk about the getting information for a team. So right now, High Voltage knows where this E100 is. What does that do for High Voltage? What can you now start making your choices based on?
It's really just, it's kind of the separation, but the way that Noble has structured their tanks and the way that High Voltage has taken their positions as well, they've both kind of equalized each other's positional advantages that way. It's more of just a large group of isolated little fights. However, High Voltage, a little bit of risk here with both their 2-on-5s caught in the middle of the courtyard. If you're not able to support all the different entrances to the courtyard is death. However, if you have all the entrances, it's a trap in the other direction. Right now, High Voltage does not have all the pieces of the puzzle that they need to protect Tiger and Bird. And if Noble sees that, could bring this game crashing to a close.
We'll see if Noble does find that, sniff that one out here of what High Voltage is doing, or if they'll be able to kind of sneak on by under the radar. 5 minutes and 17 seconds on the clock. So far, Noble's done a great job starting to burn some time off. Here comes Woltage down from the side of the hill. And that 1390, he's going to go head-to-head against Marsh here, who is on reload. Takes a shot there. Woltage does it onto Marsh. No damage, and right now Akula starting to be focused out. Ox Thief and Ant Thief coming around the corner. They find Canadian Impact. Tiger Thief taking 780 there in that 5B. And the first tank going down is going to be on the side of Noble. Canadian Impact gets picked up there. Let's see if High Voltage can continue, and it looks like they can. Tiger Thief finds Akula. Still, Woltage takes down Marsh in that E100, a 1390, just showing its power so far here tonight in the finals. Militant is on the run. He is spotted out there. Really not a lot of places that he can go. 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Plenty of time for High Voltage to come back. to start either finding the kills, which they are. Arclet takes down Germ, or put some cap pressure on. It looks like they just want to try to find this. They are going to put wall hacks there to apply that pressure. Friction is spotted out there. High Voltage knows where he's at. 3 tanks left. Not a single one down for High Voltage. What's happening here for Noble?
Just trying to scramble around and see what they can salvage here. Militant trying to tie up tanks and get some soak damage as he rushes to try and defend Friction. Dodema on the reload. There's not really a whole angle for
There he goes. Oxthief takes down Friction. Arclet finds Dodo. Milton comes in, takes down Anthief to try to get some team morale back up. He might be able to find Oxthief here, unless Oxthief is a little too reckless. Now he's going to play it safe, come around the corner. He's now Blue Boys captain against him. Tiger Thief chiming in, all the damage going through. 420 going on to Milton right there. And here comes Wall Hacks, ladies and gentlemen. Wall Hacks in that 1390, ramming Milton. Look at that aggression there. Takes the shot, Arclet finishes him off. And that is High Voltage now tying it up 1-1 against Noble here for the third and fourth place matches. So that battle, a lot different than the first one, it seems, in the fact that everything was kind of stalling out. Everything was kind of like, all right, who's going to make that first move? And once High Voltage decided to bring that 1390 off the hill, it seemed like just everything then just went to pieces for Noble. They started losing tank after tank after tank after tank. What did High Voltage do so well right there?
You know, the overall spread that they had allowed them to just cause a lot of chaos in the overall situation in the map. And apparently they thrive in that because they were able to pick up a lot of damage that I don't necessarily know if they should have been able to do. Wallhacks coming in and taking out the W100 was huge. Marsh wasn't even looking at him. He knew he was there, and he pulled out to try and support a teammate, and then it all ended up being for naught while he was directly behind his turret, took him out. So a huge mistake there from Marsh. And what I'm really interested in, to get into stats, is to see exactly how much damage Arclet did, because I didn't think the 183 was going to get his shots in, but in that kind of chaotic situation, you can't go sending any tanks after him, and after a while, he's going to start bleeding a lot of damage on you.
Let's go to stats.
Oh, okay, yeah. Whoop. Here we go. We're going to start with Friction. 23.98 out of his 215. All twos. 22.22 for W100, driven by Dodema. 12.62 for Canadian Impact. And the rest of the team, 12.04 for Akula, 1,000 for Militant, only roughly 500 for Germ, and 0 for Marsh.
Ooh.
There is
That's a
your
problem.
problem.
That's a big problem.
Right there. And we go over here. Arclet with 4,089. 4 shots, 4 hits, 4 penetrations. That'll do it. 3 kills for him. 23.60 out of Bird. 21.47 out of Oxthief. Wallhacks was 16.85 and a very critical kill. 15.77 out of Tiger. Roughly 1,500, 1,400 for Ant. And Blue Boys with 1.2 thousand. Just everybody over 1,000 there. Yeah. It's hard to say whether I would consider that a great game or not. I mean, a great play. Certainly in a lot of individual instances. The overall strategic concept, I'm not sure if I was missing something or if there's just mostly chaos. Is both teams trying to rotate around each other, both teams kind of blocking each other do that, and then all of a sudden High Voltage just started fighting.
Let's just shoot them.
And they won it.
They just pew-pewed a little bit harder than the other team, and that's what you got to do in this game, and that is going to make you a victor. Ladies and gentlemen, High Voltage tying it up 1-1. We are going ready. We are going ready. We are going ready back into the next battle. Ladies and gentlemen, switching sides again. Let's go right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
Noble with 250Bs, 2215s, an IS-4, 183, and an AMX 1390. High Voltage with 50B, 2215s, a T22, an E3, a W100, and an IS-3.
Ooh, all right, the IS-3 here. Coming back onto Himmelsdorf. We'll see what High Voltage can do with that tank. Can they make it work? Or will Noble come back now? And unless Noble or High Voltage, one of the two, just start taking down the enemy team, unless High Voltage just starts getting victory after victory after victory, or unless Noble starts doing that to High Voltage, we're going to be seeing a very different matchup between these two teams than we've seen the entire season of this WGLNA Season 2, or last one, even for the finals, because again, it's usually a clean sweep either way. But again, usually one team does get one victory, so we'll see if that is High Voltage, we'll see if that is Noble right now. Looks like High Voltage is doing the same thing, spreading out a lot of their tanks over on the western side. David, is there any what is the risk of doing that? What is the risk to bringing more than just one on the western side if Noble were to push north? What's they're doing?
Very minimal risk, actually. There's a lot of potential to slow things down and rotate back as long as you have the timing right. And they do bring the T22 to guarantee they can do that in time. A couple spots here on the 8 line. But so far, no damage done to Noble as they move up. They're looking like they're trying to fade those spots that happened on them so they can move up without taking as much damage. Only Friction spotted. But one tank is enough to know that there are several more heavies going there. Only thing that High Voltage doesn't know right now is essentially where the 250Bs are, where the 183 is. 1390 you can pretty much assume is going to be on hill. So right now High Voltage is starting to get their rotations back. So they've already cleared out the western side. That protects the one cap from them. Now knowing the Noble can only go to the northeastern cap, and as long as they have their meta under control, they should have an answer for that. Arclit back in an E3 on the corner to slow down that northern cap. And Noble actually coming to a halt. Not really trying to make a big move here.
No.
Looks like they might be trying to set a trap of some sort.
Well, that'll be interesting. Himmelsdorf traps. It's always a scary map. We talked about how many corners there are and how many little buildings you can shoot through, and the ones you can, and it gives you nightmares.
That is the truth. Every corner on Himmelsdorf can be death in this situation unless you get a lot of early intelligence and you don't let it go stale. The machines, you have to keep contact with your opponent or otherwise lock down lanes to guarantee they can't be in some of the places that you've already cleared, thus bottling them into other portions of the map. Noble's starting to move up the 8 line and likely get the same cap pressure they had last time, this time leaving the 183 on the 0 line. Both 50Bs not on the 0 line this time, so throwing a little bit of a curveball into what they did last time. Perhaps going to catch High Voltage off guard if High Voltage decides to hard counter a bit too hard.
Well, we'll see right now, Bird Thief, as you guys can see on your screen, in that E100, driving over to the north. Obviously, they sense that Noble is heading that way. They haven't seen really anything in the south. We do have 2 50Bs, David, like you said, for Noble out there in that H8 area. What do you think they're going to be waiting for? What is going to be their trigger?
Looks like they're probably going to be coming in from behind into the courtyard area in the event that High Voltage tries to use that against Noble. They did in the last game, so a little bit of a counter coming out from them as well. And High Voltage actually going fairly low here with the T-22. There is a decent chance he will spot them, and that could actually make that trap flip the other direction into High Voltage's favor.
Well, High Voltage right now, though, is sending one of their 50Bs as well as the T-22 right for those 2 50Bs on the side of Noble. And if they get caught out and Noble can just stall out for a little bit, that might be 2 tanks free going down in favor of Noble on the side of High Voltage.
That is a very short path for Blue Boys, which is reasonable. Where those 2 50Bs are is not particularly likely, and this 50B for High Voltage could very easily get caught out as Blue Boys blows past the corner. See, Dodoma and Milton are actually so far back they didn't get the spotting. Blue Boys going very, very wide, and the jig is up here as Militant and Dodo start trying to push and collapse on Blue Boys, and Ox Thief in beautiful position to start capitalizing on that.
So right now, Militant and Dodo's trap is now in a sense sprung, but not in a good way because they didn't get any damage onto Blue Boys or anyone over there. Ox Thief now waiting back, and he gets to sit back and watch. And Thief takes a shot there for 453. Wall hacks goes down. Marsh picking that one up. The first tank fallen for the side of High Voltage here. 4 minutes on the clock, so half the battle has gone by, but it looks like time is not going to be the issue here as High Voltage barrels around over to the north. Tiger Thief finishes off Germ, but he is getting focused down himself. 1,700 points of damage there in that 5B, bouncing a nice shot there from the back. And the rest of Noble barreling down here onto High Voltage. Milton finds Tiger Thief. That's another tank down. That's a tank down, though, going for Noble. High Voltage's Bird Thief picks up Akula in his 5B. It is now a 5 on 5. The HP actually in favor of High Voltage right now, and even more so as Anthief takes down Dodo. Marsh, though, finishes off Blue Boys in that 183. What a sound. I would not expect that, or I would expect nothing less from that sound to be followed up with the tank going down. And now Arclit in a bit of a tricky situation in between Friction and Canadian Impact. Let's see how much damage he can do before he goes down and inevitably himself. Milton having 2 more shots. There it is. Canadian Impact picks that one up. And now Milton letting his final shot fly in that 50B. He got out his entire clip. He will be going down here. Eventually, it looks like it's going to be Anthief because Ox Thief is on a long reload here. The rest of Noble now coming in to try to support Milton as they do know where a couple of tanks are. Canadian Impact takes down Ant for finishing off Milton, leaving it a 2 on 3. David, right now, we have an E100 fully loaded, full HP for High Voltage. Ox Thief now fully loaded as well on his 50B. Who would you rather be?
Definitely on Noble's side as they're going to collapse in and take down Ox Thief right now. An 1839 from Marsh directly into Bird's WE100.
Oh my gosh, that's a huge chunk of damage there. What was a full health E100 is now barely holding on. Ox Thief and Friction now kind of in head-to-head. Friction, though, does have the reload. He will have the DPMs up onto Ox Thief. Looks like he's not even, oh, how rude is that? He's just turning his turret. He's like, should I kill you? Yeah, I'm going to kill you.
He's trying to get protection from this W100 coming around to try and pick him up. There is a decent chance and a nice bounce from Friction as he puts himself in position to guarantee Bird cannot get back anywhere. 183 at this point is virtually superfluous. However, Friction, if he misses a shot, will not be able to kill Bird in the amount of time it takes Bird to kill him. But Friction locking down these angles. And the 183 driven by Marsh starting to get back on cap. Friction locking down Bird as best as possible. Bird taking one of the better angles, but he is lit. Friction does not have a shot as Bird slips into the G line.
All right, now there it is again, ladies and gentlemen. If their name is yellow, that means the team can see them. Here's the cap pressure on 90 seconds, a minute 40 overall, so Noble will have time to cap. Friction now actually leaving the courtyard, maybe feeling, what do you think, David, a little too exposed?
I agree with this move. Absolutely, there's too many angles where he could possibly get picked up. So he's just going to go add on additional cap pressure with his teammate Marsh, which guarantees that probably one of them will be able to pick off Bird when he gets back. Plus, Bird is far slower in the W100 than a lot of these, than you would need to in order to get back in a comfortable amount of time. He's basically got to take a very, very short path, which is going to limit the overall number of options. You can see Friction and Marsh taking the two different angles that they need, and it'd be very unlikely for Bird to be able to come back from this.
All right, but now, David, if he does come around the corner and gets a shot onto Friction, maybe gets a high roll, that is going to, first of all, extinguish the cap pressure, but most of it is on Marsh. Do you think it'll be enough for Noble to still win?
I think Noble will have this pretty easily here. Friction is actually on a corner where he can proxy Bird if Bird wants to come directly up the middle. He is looking at a little bit of a peculiar place considering that he will spot that. But yes, due to the timing, Bird would have had to come directly up the 5-line. Friction knows that that's the only angle he's looking at, and Noble will take it by cap.
There it is. Congratulations to Noble finding a victory through the cap. I think it's the first time tonight we've actually seen a cap pressure lead to a victory for a team. But Noble now is up 2-0 against High Voltage. So a great play for them. It did get down though pretty close to the time-wise, right? I mean, it wasn't over in the first 3 minutes as we've seen a lot of these battles tonight. These teams, High Voltage and Noble, really kind of drawing it out. Why do you think they're doing this? Is this another mind game? Are they just straight up exhausted from playing already?
Well, it's probably exhaustion, plus it's kind of their average strategic gameplay for the most part is a little bit more slower, methodical, and it's Himmelsdorf. And that's just pretty much how Himmelsdorf is played.
Himmelsdorf makes it just nice and slow.
So let's go ahead and check out those stats. For High Voltage, Ox Thief leading the pack with 4281, 2439 out of Ant, 2185 out of Arclit, 1642 for Bird Thief, Tiger Thief with 1552, everybody else below 1,000. Meanwhile, for Friction, 3812 out of his 215, 3499 out of the IS4, 2734 out of Marsh's 183, 1536 for Militant, everybody else falling below that number as well. A relatively even game when you get into the damage side to side. But positional play and cap pressure can make up for that.
Now, are you seeing anything that we're between these two teams right now, between High Voltage, that we didn't see in their first matches tonight against Simp, against Eclipse, that you feel like would have been great to have? Or is this just kind of the same, just tonight they're all just playing around the same way?
These two are pretty much just playing around the same way tonight. So from what we've seen so far, maybe that'll change as they move into a different map from Himmelsdorf. But we'll have to get there to see, and this will be the final game we see on Himmelsdorf, so it's not long now.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, what Noble is battling for is if they win this, they will go on to the grand finals over in Warsaw, Poland, happening in April 8th and 9th. Got to make sure to tune to that. But if High Voltage wins, they're going to take that away from them and take third place. Ladies and gentlemen, the final battle on Himmelsdorf is about to begin. Let's go right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble, two 215s, an IS4, a T22, a WE100, two 5120s. For High Voltage, a 50B, two 215s, an IS7, T22, a 183, and an AMX 1390. So two tier 9s versus one tier 8. Traditional meta lineups that we see so far pretty much boils down to 5 tier 10s and 2 tier 9s, or 6 tier 10s and 1 tier 8. Noble opting to go with probably, it's hard to say which one's the better one on this map, honestly.
All right, so right now, as we see High Voltage pulling out here, let's see where they'll be going. They are sending again that tank destroyer up on top of the hill, guarded there by that 1390 driven, looks like by wall hacks. So we'll see if they're going to try anything new, anything crazy, if there's going to be some Himmelsdorf plays where we see tanks flying off the side of the cliff and shooting Noble on the way down. Or if it'll be probably a more standard game than we have seen. Right now, Ox Thief setting up in a nice position here to overlook the courtyard, and that 50B. That's a scary tank to be hiding from you. Man, you get spotted by that thing. That's 4 shots of pain coming right into your direction, right into your line of sight. So now up there we have the 7-8 line push, as we do see kind of the rest of High Voltage trying. They will be meeting Canadian Impact. He's got to be careful there in this IS4. He does get spotted out there, and he knows he's spotted. That's the thing about these tanks, right? Is once you're spotted, David, kind of talk to me again, just for players who are either newer to this or kind of maybe just need a nice refresher, is the information you get from being spotted yourself. Not necessarily having to spot a tank, but just being spotted.
I mean, that's obviously valuable. Any sort of information you can get is valuable to some extent.
Information
There's a
is
tank
information.
not here? Well, it must be someplace else. When you boil down this format, or when you boil down the game of tanks down to 7v7 instead of 15v15,
Yeah.
there is only so many different places tanks can be. This is valuable if you're in a public match and a lot of tanks are dead. It's valuable in almost any situation. So if you are spotted, but you can't see where they came from, you can usually limit that to a certain number of positions. Either it's one of the tanks on the map that just has a higher view range than you, it's a bush someplace, and oftentimes professional players can know exactly where somebody else is without actually having seen them.
Whoa, what a shot there from Oxthief. Looks like he was actually on the move as well, hitting Canadian Impact through that window there you guys see on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Tiger Thief now moving up to that window as well to try to find Canadian Impact again. As much damage as possible. David, as far as position-wise right now, Canadian Impact not looking great, but who would you rather be, High Voltage or Noble in this situation?
Right now, looking at these overall positions, I'd have to say High Voltage, but High Voltage does not know what we know given these positions of Noble, and that is going to change things quite a bit. If they did, absolutely High Voltage. Given it is right now, Noble, while they do have a slight HP deficit in comparison, have a little bit of better positions, and there's still a trick up their sleeve.
So again, just a reminder, the teams do not see what we see right here. They are not have the privilege to see all the tanks on the minimap. They can't get some sweet bird's eye views as we are doing, and so basically if a tank is not lit up, it's invisible, it's gone. So that's when it really does come down to making sure you're keeping track of which tank you saw where. Dave, one thing we talked about Eclipse that they were focusing down on Noble was the fact that they focused some of the more standout players, as we were kind of talking about here. Tell me about that aspect of the game. Whoa, as a huge chunk of damage there going on to wall hacks. Marsh finishes him off in that 51-20, and that is a scout down for High Voltage. Forget what I was going to say. Now
Here we go, though. Both those 51-20s are now sitting ducks as High Voltage starts to collapse on those easy picks. Wide in the open. Marsh on the reload. Germ the only one still with ammo left. Canadian Impact and Akula, no real position to stop them. And the rest of Noble is going to have to come in behind to make up for this.
It looks like High Voltage knows to pick when they've got one. 11.97 there going into March. 15.59 and a ram from Oxley to finish it up. And then he turns and gets a kill onto Germ. That 50B taking out 2 of his own. A nice play coming out there from Oxthief, leaving just 5 tanks on the side of Noble. High Voltage sitting pretty now. They are on offense, though, so given their positions, do you think Noble had a chance to go, okay, great, we now know where all 5 of the members of High Voltage are. Let's bottleneck them, let's collapse in upon them, or just not enough time as Arclet takes down Canadian
Not enough
Impact?
time, too great a distances to cover, and tanks that are just far too slow. A huge strategic oversight on Noble's part. Generally, parking any tanks in that area you consider a loss. They were definitely trying to set up to pick off wall hacks or somebody coming up the 8 line. It ended up feeding back the other way. 1 tier 8 for 2 tier 9s. I'll take that trade any day of the week.
So talking about the tier 8 versus the 2 tier 9s, kind of bringing them, you're giving yourself an extra tier 10, or you're sacrificing one of those extra tier 10s for a tier 9. What is the kind of strategy on Himmelsdorf? Which one do you think has a slight edge?
Depends on whether you're going toe-to-toe with a fight or whether you need to rotate around and find targets. It's just a very difficult thing as it gets very complicated very quickly. Overall, though, 2 tier 9s are going to be generally better in a straight-up brawl.
Because you're talking about the difference between a tier 8 and a tier 9 is just astronomical.
Really depends on the 9s, though. In some situations, an extra 10 could bounce more than those 9s. Perhaps it brings more HP. Perhaps its gun is better. Like I said, it's a very complicated thing. You have to depend on where that fight's going to happen, what your overall strategic goals are, what the other lineups or other tanks in your lineup are, and it just keeps kind of spiraling out of control from there.
All right now, High Voltage is not going to even try to chase down Noble. They know they have a take advantage, and they want to bring Noble to them. They have put 3 members on cap, dropping it to 10 seconds. It's going to pull Friction around the corner in that 5B. Now it's down to 6. Milton coming around from the back. I don't think he's going to have a nice shot here on any of these tanks. Down to 2, now down to 1 more second. The cap goes to 0. Friction is looking for a reset. Oh, he actually gets it in the grace period that is given, and that is going to reset the clock completely. The battle has begun, and Dodo takes down Arclet in this chaos, but Friction is not going to matter. He goes down. Oxthief takes down Dodoma, leaving just Akula and Milton alive against 5 tanks, all over half HP on the side of High Voltage here. Milton going head-to-head against Bird Thief. He does have an increased, it looks like reload timer against Bird, but I'm not sure that is going to help him out as If he does take down Bird Thief, he has to go through Ant Thief, and then Blue Boy's Captain, and then Tiger Thief. And then to finish it off, Ox Thief, who is now loaded and ready to dump his clip right into Akula. Bird Thief takes out Milton, leaving just Akula left. Ox Thief finishes him off, and ladies and gentlemen, High Voltage ties it up 2-2 against Noble here as we're going to our 3rd and 4th place matches. Now this is those close games where it's kind of like I was expecting here going into the finals, right? You have the top teams. They're all relatively the same right now. This is kind of what we're seeing. Noble and High Voltage finishing off Himmelsdorf, a nice 2-2 spread here between both of them. Now, David, looking kind of at Himmelsdorf, and now as we're leaving away from it, let's just talk about it right before we close it out. Who would you even though it's tied, was there advantage on either side? Did you see a team playing stronger than another?
Not in the overall picture.
Okay.
One thing, an intriguing bit of information I just received, is if High Voltage wins, apparently Simp and Eclipse both auto-qualify for the grand finals, as that has now pushed Noble so far down that the other two go. So they're just playing for the seed of their division. So
way.
High Voltage holding an incredible amount of fate in their hands here.
Gosh, High Voltage holding the key to basically the rest of the players in this finals destiny. That's incredible. That is even more to play for. So High Voltage, I mean, they can't hear us right now, and I'm sure they probably don't know that. But if they did, probably getting themselves kind of pumped up like, yeah, we're the gatekeeper. You want to win? You got to bribe us. Fortunately, we can't do that here. Probably not enough time to go into stats, which is super exciting because that means, guys, what does that mean? That means double stats are going to happen when we come back from the next. But the map we will be going into right here is going to be Moravanka. So, the first time we'll be seeing this map. David, going to Moravanka, the style between both these teams, who would you give it to?
You know, so far I'd have to give it to Noble. Last time we saw High Voltage play Moravanka, it was not necessarily a cohesive overall strategy.
Okay.
It was a little bit awkward side to side. And I feel like Noble just has a better grasp on a lot of these rotational maps, unless High Voltage is really able to change around from the last time we see him play.
Who is the team? Was it might not have been these guys. Was it 07 who placed that crazy trap over in the A1 area under Moravanka, or was that?
That was High Voltage.
It was High
and it
Voltage.
wasn't necessarily a trap. They were hiding tanks in there in order to flank down to the western side
and get the cap.
And cap fast,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
But there's not necessarily sure that's going to work against Noble.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of assumption that has to be made there. Now that Noble's seen it, they're not going to make it.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, the teams are loading in here. The map is loading in. Again, a lot riding on the line for Noble here and for the other two teams, Eclipse and Simp, in the league. If High Voltage is to win this one, both the teams ought to qualify. Noble is out, but if Noble can pick up this victory here, they will move on to the grand finals. We're ready. The maps are in. Let's go right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
For Noble, an E5, two 140s, two T22s, a 62A, and an RU-251 for High Voltage, two 215s, an I-7, a Batshot, two TVPs, and a Lorraine 155-51 on offense. Trying to get a little bit of those shots, and with Lorraine 51, I'm not sure it packs enough of a punch to really scare Noble out from any particular position, so perhaps a little bit of an advantage just based on the lineup here. We've discussed a lot about artillery, so we're going to let that one lie for now.
But I wanted to ask more questions about
mostly over into the west. Well, if you want to, you always have that right.
It is quite a ride here. As you can see, Bird Thief on your screen, that 50-51 going to the center, getting spotted out actually, which is incredible because we talked about the center of this map being kind of a death trap, David, the kind of village you guys see just dead center in the mini map, and kind of talk to me again, elaborate on why that is.
Well, you're talking about the actual village tanks and everything, why they're in the middle of the map?
Yeah, why is that a death trap we've talked about for so many of these tanks?
That makes a lot more sense. It's a death trap mostly because...
Why did Wargiving put this village here?
I don't know. I don't make the maps.
What the heck?
Over here, so it's mostly just the fact that there's so many destructible buildings in here, so much foliage, so many different passages that you never know. You can't just look at this and look between the buildings and assume you can be able to shoot through them. So perhaps some team figures out a firing solution where they blow down a lot of the buildings and they're able to shoot a place you didn't think they could. And you can't really see, and you never really know when somebody's going to pop out from behind one of those buildings. So it's just a very difficult place to be. It can either be an area of safety or a death trap, and it really just depends on the situation, who you're playing, and often I feel like luck. I feel like sometimes teams just find the other person in a place that happens to be one of those. But if somebody ever went in there and spent a crazy amount of time mapping it out, they could get a significant advantage, but honestly, probably not worth the time.
It's not worth it, right, in that sense, unless you could find some super secret method. Right now, Tiger Thief in that I-7 applying some cap pressure for High Voltage here over on the western cap. You guys can see both the teams culminating here on the western side. And Noble starting to leave. They had a lot of presence there. Dave, why are they pulling those tanks away? It looked like they they were ready to get the resets.
Some sort of eastern flank probably supporting their tanks that are going to go up the 3 line here in order to get those resets, but this is a gamble. Only 1 tank on cap, though.
Now
Gives
2.
Noble the right amount of time, but as you said, 2 on cap now, 30 seconds left on it, and a 3rd person coming in to put a lot more pressure on it. Noble is now going to be in a very awkward position.
Oh, now it's the 3rd Blue Boys captain going to join as well. They're putting a cap fast on. They're trying to pull Noble to them. Let's see if they can get it. 9 seconds on the clock. Canadian Impact is going to put himself on the line to get these resets here. Now down to 4. He's around the corner. He stops just for a second, and there it is from the side, right on a Tiger Thief. Is a little bit of the resets. And we talked about once the resets happen, usually it might be all over for the team on offense, but that doesn't look like it's the case as Germ gets absolutely lit up, totally crossfire, destroyed, and gone in that T-22. Not bouncing any shots tonight. Wallhacks, though, taking some damage as well. Dodo and Akula being responsible for that, but he is now in a good position as if Akula and Dodo come around the side, they're going to face off against a lot of the members of High Voltage. High Voltage now barreling into what we call the Death Trap Village, chasing down Militant, which might be his grave. Dodo in that 140 up on top has a lot of covering fire. Looks like it's going to be the final shot to take down Bird Thief. Marsh finds Wallhacks, and Noble starting to come back, only losing 1 tank. Now High Voltage is down 2. Tiger Thief is extremely low here. Oxley does take down Dodo. High Voltage trying to crawl their way back here. Tiger 1 more shot away, and Marsh takes down Blue Boys captain. Tiger Thief goes down to Friction, leaving just Ant, Ox Thief, and Arklet alive for High Voltage. 4 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. The HP, though, in favor of High Voltage, interestingly enough. David, with that Lorraine, though, on the side of High Voltage, who would you rather be?
Definitely Noble.
Yeah.
Definitely Noble. I would have
Yeah.
said that from the instant we saw Bird chase Militant through the middle in a TVP. You're not going to catch a 140, and you're certainly not going to kill him with a TVP alone. A lot more shots would have had to happen. There were better targets in the 3 line. High Voltage spoiling some pretty great opportunities here as Noble using that area we talked about that could potentially be a death trap as the opposite. Meanwhile, Arklet, the only one left for High Voltage.
All by himself. In that
You said it.
50-51, he's got to be careful here. I mean, they've got to know where he's at, and even if they don't, it doesn't matter. They're on defense, 3 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Well, now they know where he's at. 1 shot just going through. Oh, if he can turn, he can take down Militant. Let's see. Oh, no, not enough damage. It looks like it was a splash, and Militant is going to take down Arklet, increasing Noble's lead 3-2 here on our 3rd and 4th place matches of our live Las Vegas finals. Again, so much riding on the line here for all of the teams playing. If Noble wins, they secure their spot at the grand finals. If High Voltage wins, that means both Eclipse and Simp have made their way into the grand finals. A lot of power going on to the side of High Voltage here. David, now it is, I feel like it's that time. I feel like it's time for double stats. I think. Do anyone else want double stats? Does anyone want double stats here? Hey, one guy wants double stats, so let's give it to that one guy. Going right into it.
All right, we're going to start with the match you just saw first, and that was in favor of Noble, quite obviously. So here, Blue Boys starting off with 1990 damage overall, 1977 from Ant, 1550 from Ox. Everybody else falling below that magical 1500 mark. Not a great game for them overall in terms of damage, or, obviously in positions.
Yeah.
Barely even picking up 2 kills in that overall battle there. Akula with 34-68 in his T-22, 27-18 out of Canadian Impact, 23-77 for Friction. Militant with 16-50, 1500 for Dodoma. And only really Germ not getting a good pick there, or getting any real edgewise into the damage. Let's go ahead and check out the battle before that. Would be this one on Himmelsdorf. So this is game 4 on Himmelsdorf, the High Voltage victory. We'll go ahead and start with Noble. 22-55 out of the T-22, 1600 for Akula.
Wow.
12-59 for Canadian Impact. Nobody else breaking 1,000. Meanwhile, for High Voltage, a significantly better game. 38-51 from Ox Thief with 4 kills. Arklet in the FV 183, 3,111. Never would have expected that.
No.
The 183 just getting so much damage on that map.
He's like, I'm gonna
Last
be
time we
a
saw him
tank
play, I
destroyer.
was not a big fan of it. It works in the finals, apparently. Tiger.
Depends on when you bring
Tiger
it.
Thief with 23-57, 23-42 from Bird Thief. Blue Boys with 16-38, 1,600 from Ant, and only Wally not putting up any damage, but that's not his fault. He drove directly into a trap.
Yeah.
Not much you can do about that.
No.
But that trap led to a counter trap, essentially, of 2 Tier 9s going down almost instantaneously.
Led to the victory right there. Now, talking about the last match we saw here on Murovanka, High Voltage almost, in my sense, calling Noble's bluff when they were going to try to flank around, putting the 3 members on cap, dropping that cap pressure down extremely low. Got to, I think, 3 or 4 seconds there. Noble coming in just in time. Was there anything High Voltage could have done with the tanks that weren't on cap to try to stop Noble from getting there and getting the first shots?
There's not a whole lot more that could have been done there,
Okay.
given the positions that everybody had once that pressure was applied so securely.
Okay. So it was basically Noble doing a fantastic job not continuing their flank and going like, oh, cap pressure, let's just go, let's just fight it right there.
I think that's what they were setting up for, is they wanted to go up the 3 line. I think they were a little bit behind the ball,
Okay.
and they barely got the reset that they needed. But at the same time, Friction was left in the 1-2 line, and they were probably very, very sure that he was going to be able to get up and get it.
Gotcha.
He knew he had the angle. He knew he'd get the good shots. So they weren't necessarily panicked, and they weren't necessarily seeing the same kind of thing we were. Not as much pressure on him as you think.
Okay. Well, then one of the things, too, is usually when we see is like, oh, yeah, someone on the cap takes damage, the cap pressure gets reset, and that usually means it's all over for the team on the offense. But clearly, as the finals have gone on tonight, that has not been the case, as multiple teams, Simp and Eclipse, have come out from what was clearly a defeat for them. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, Noble is up 3-2 against High Voltage, getting right back into Muravanka. Noble on offense, High Voltage on defense. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
Noble on offense now with 2 E5s, 2 140s, 2 T22s, and an M40, M43. High Voltage with an IS4, 2 140s, a 907, 2 STBs, and an AMX 1390 on defense.
Okay, all right. So Noble bringing back that M40, M43 here on offense. Dave, what are your thoughts that compared to the Lorraine?
Oh, it's definitely better for this map and this situation than the Lorraine is.
Okay.
And I'm still 50-50 on it overall.
All right, well, we'll see again if that spells victory for Noble or if it spells defeat for them. As High Voltage is starting to, with their initial pushes here, spreading out the 1390. They're going in that H5 area. A couple of their members here going over to the west. They're leaving that Object 907, the Object 907 way down in the south there, driven by Ox Thief. David, is that in case of a flank, and is that a tank that you would put in that situation? It's a tier 10.
It's not necessarily there in case of a flank. So we're talking about Ox Thief over here at around K67.
Yeah.
This is here mostly for spotting and to support the 1390 that is forward right over here in H6. So he's here to make sure anything that Wallhack spots starts getting lit up from that position. The 907 having one of the highest DPMs out of the Russian medium group. I believe it's only the Object 430 that has higher.
Oh, okay.
And in my opinion, it's a negligible amount considering some of the other traits of a 430. We'll get into that maybe if things slow down a little bit. But right now, Noble starting to work their way into cap, taking 411 from Friction, on Friction from one of the STBs here. We're in G1.
Blue Boys.
Always able to hold that position down. Any position you give them. 433 coming up from Marsh. Nice splash from the M40, M43. And as long as Noble can keep things slow like that, that will be a great asset to them.
Yeah.
Although they do have to spend Militant, a tier 10 in the Object 140, all the way over there in A8.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure that it's safe. So that's always kind of the trade-off. However, Germ also in the middle in the T22, so a lot of map control, a lot of vision. And I will just going to start rotating through the east. Militant will find him. All he has to do is make that take as long as possible. He's either going to get in behind them and get a nice set of flank shots, or he's going to tie somebody up, perhaps get a kill before he goes down. Either way, Noble's plan essentially being operated step by step exactly the way they want it to be.
All right, and if Noble picks up this victory, that'll be a 4-2 against High Voltage. They'll be going back on defense. So if this is a victory...
They cut it short.
Oh, Germ, got to be careful on that T22. Bird Thief might be able to find him as well as Tiger Thief. Another member from High Voltage, Ox Thief coming in just to join him there. 735 going on to Germ. One more shot. He'll be going down there in that T22. Wow, 1142. Marsh helping out with that damage, but the first tank fallen for the side of Noble. Cap pressure also really not a big threat for High Voltage as they are up almost 1,700 points of HP right now. Not looking great for Noble.
And there we go. Wallhack's getting some early damage on Militant, prepping him for Ox to come in and finish him off. Ox will definitely win in a 907 versus 140 fight in that kind of situation. Noble going to have to try and counter push to make up for that deficit.
Right now on your screen, Jern, you can see the intensity on his face. Akula coming around the side. They're going to try to find an overmatch on a Blue Boys captain if they can. If they take down this STB1, that'll definitely ease up this long journey they're going to have. But with Ox Thief taking down Militant, with Blue Boys finding Canadian impact, not a single tank fallen for there's the caster curse. Dodo takes down Blue Boys. Arclet does find friction though, and it looks like High Voltage is going to come back and tie it up 3-3. The seesaw, the teeter-totter will continue here on our third and fourth place match. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, plenty of time for High Voltage to take these guys down. They're on defense, they don't care. There's 3 tanks left. They have 1,300 points of HP. Bird Thief, take out Dodo. Check. Wall Hacks, take down Marsh. Got it. And who's going to take down? Oh, it's going to be Ant Thief. Congratulations, High Voltage picking up their 3rd victory here, tying it up now against Noble. They're not going to make it easy for Noble, are they? They're not going to just give this one to them and let them go to the grand finals. They're going to make them earn every single inch that they take and possibly shut down their dreams if High Voltage can continue like this. Now, a very decisive win, it seemed like, from High Voltage right there, having a lot of their tanks up. David, what do you think really kind of led to that? What really gave them that huge advantage?
Well, once they got that spot on Germ and they knew where Militant was, they knew they had a pick, and they knew they could also rotate into the west for a very easy overmatch, given the artillery that was there. So mostly a lineup thing, plus the little bit of their rotations. I was a bit concerned when they started heading very far east, but they cut just at the right time in order to clear through the middle. It was a great play from them. Let's go ahead and check out the stats for just a second.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get into that next game. For Noble, 2393 out of Dodoma, 2203 for Akula, 1193 for Canadian Impact. Nobody else breaking 1,000 for High Voltage, 2600 from Arclit, 2422 from Bird Thief, 1883 for Tiger Thief, 1629 for Blue Boys. Everybody breaking 1,000. Everybody breaking 1,000. A nice spread damage game. Even Wallhack staying alive after going head-to-head with a Tier 9 and getting away.
The fact that, again, the only tank fallen was captain there. 1,600 points of damage, so a fantastic play overall from High Voltage. You said at one point that High Voltage cut it short. Was that you were thinking that the flank that they were trying to do?
I thought they were going very far east. I've seen them do it before. They cut at the right time. They're actually using the train to their advantage. It's going to give them protection up to a certain point. They can lead scout it, and it's a nice little berm they can fire from the event that Wally spots anything. Wally didn't, well, until he saw Militant.
Right.
And then they just rotated west once they saw Jerem, picked him off because nobody could save him there. And from there, pretty easy win.
Game over.
You already take down one Tier 10, and with an artillery on the map, especially a Tier 8 artillery, it's essentially 2 tanks down. Because even though the artillery hits body shots from that point forward, it's not going to make a difference just based on his reload alone.
And also, he got that led High Voltage to get control of that center area to fire up the northern cap. Noble just really couldn't do anything. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's all tied up 3-3. Let's get right into the next battle and take a look at what we've got. 4 tanks.
For Noble, an E5, 2 140s, 2 T22s, a 62A, and an RU-251 for High Voltage, 2 215s, an IS-7, a Batchat, 2 TVPs, and a Lorraine 155-51 again.
Bringing the Lorraine back. We'll see if it works for them this time here. Starting positions looking nice. Now, one of the things that we talked about as being kind of, I guess, a detriment bringing in artillery is the fact that you generally have to have another tank to be its bodyguard. You have to bring one of your tanks, generally or preferably a lower tier, to go ahead and make sure that the other team can't just send a scout and take it out in a one shot. So looking at how many times that has happened, kind of in your personal experience where you've left an artillery by itself, do you think it's just worth the risk in a sense to say, hey, artillery, we're just going to leave you alone. We're going to have our guys come and join, because that's what it seemed like SIP did when they faced off against High Voltage on the cliff. They brought their artillery, but they were like, hey, we're still going to have a 6-on-7 fight in the center.
It's usually not worth it, in my opinion.
Okay.
You've got to have a very well-built strategy to guarantee you're going to get those shots in, and you've got to guarantee you're going to hit those shots, and that you're going to kill tanks with them or otherwise remove positions that wouldn't be able to be addressed by anything else. But 18 seconds left on cap as High Voltage puts on a crazy amount of pressure, and Noble flanking very, very far to the east. 215 might spot everything coming in, and High Voltage might be able to actually convert this one into a cap for the first time.
5 members down in the south. A lot of shots there going off onto friction. Wallhack's going to come and finish him off there in that bat chat, and that is the first tank down. 11 seconds still on the clock. High Voltage has got the pressure. They've got the tank's advantage now. Canadian Impact might be falling as well. 1 or 2 more shots in the E5. 3 seconds on the clock. Down to 2. Wallhack finds Canadian Impact. This might be High Voltage with a quick reset. No! What a reset there coming down to Bird Thief. Tiger Thief, though, is going to find Marsh. And even though Noble found that reset, it looks like they are just so far down. High Voltage clearly should be able to find the overmatches that they have, take down the remaining tanks of Noble, and turn this into a win. David, they picked this victory up They're going to be on defense now, and they just need to hold one more because this will be their 4th victory. Ladies and gentlemen, Akula and Militant just cannot do enough to convert this one for their team. Akula one more shot away. Now let's see if Arklet can find a kill there in that Lorraine. Akula is the perfect target. Will he find it? Arklet, he's ready. He's ready. No, the shot going actually into Militant for a good chunk of damage. 1409 there. Wallhacks finds Militant. Tiger finds Akula. And High Voltage with a nice turn of events, picking up their 4th victory now against Noble. And that is a fantastic victory to have, going into being one more away from closing this one out. Not only are they going to be on defense, but that is 2 decisive wins in a row. That is not 2, oh, yeah, it was kind of close, or 2, that went really long, and it was, oh, Noble got it. That was 2 decisive. High Voltage picked up the wins.
You can definitely feel it here in the room.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting to get on a roll finally. They're starting to finally hit their stride right now against Noble. And that is an unfortunate timing for Noble to have to go with that. Their dreams potentially 1 game away from getting crushed, and that's a timeout from Noble.
Great one indeed.
Very important one. So we've definitely got time. Let's go ahead and look at the stats. They're not going to be great, though. Not going to be great. Not on Noble's part.
We can make up
because they got blocked very hard. Just a beautiful overall strategic outlook from Eclipse there. They ran the same strategy twice. We'll get into it here in a second. 1681 out of Militant. 1254 out of Akula. Nobody else breaking 1,000 at all. Meanwhile, for High Voltage, 3303 in the 215 driven by Ox Thief. 2025 from Bird Thief in the TVP, 1806 for Wallhack, 1643 for Ant. Lorraine even getting in 1572. 3 shots, 2 hits, 2 pens, 2 splash.
Bad.
That's actually fantastic.
1572.
That's actually fantastic. You know, I still prefer tier 8, but hey, there's a good reason for it. We'll get into that in a second. 1376 from the I-7 driven by Tiger Thief and Blue with 1226. Everybody breaking 1,000 again and only losing 1 tank overall.
So now this is the 2nd time that we've seen High Voltage on offense on Muravanka. Again, the first time they tried to go in and do that cat fast, Noble stopped them.
Right, so they did the exact same thing again.
Yeah.
And they knew what Noble was going to do. Noble went actually further than they did last time, probably trying to prevent the angles, knowing that High Voltage was going to meta them, and they would probably lock down the 3-line. But it was irrelevant. High Voltage saw what we saw. Well, the only reason that we didn't get the cap is because there was the 62A there that got it. So bring the artillery again, do the exact same thing again, give the outlook that they think Noble wants to see so that Noble will try and meta them while they meta Noble. And all they had to do was take all that focus fire and dump it on that 62A. They took down the entire threat that they had in the 1-2 line, the only thing actually stopping them from getting cap pressure. And then the E5 that was there, driven by Canadian Impact, wasn't too far out. He would have had to come in an uncomfortable position. He was going to die, so they got him immediately after that. And from there, just defending the cap.
Yeah,
easy.
That's all
Beautiful strategy. Great recognition of what was going on. That's the High Voltage I wish we'd been able to see all season long.
The other thing that I love about what they did there is using the cap as a means to an end, not as the thing itself. Like, hey, we're going to put all of our hope on that cap.
A perfect balance of it, in fact.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm going to put this
enough.
On.
And you saw it. Once they got the kill in the 62A, they were starting to move off the cap.
Yeah.
Because they realized it was pointless.
Like,
but once they got it, they stopped right there on the edge. They looked at the isolations. They're like, okay, we can actually keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
Let's keep doing that because we might actually win it. And we don't actually have to leave in that one sliver they're in, as long as they can block the 1-2 line from coming in from behind them. They can actually do both. They can shoot the tanks coming in and cap.
That sounds like a pretty fantastic position to be on, and Noble has got to be feeling the hurt right now as we're coming out of the timeout. If they don't pick up this victory and then find the next one, they are out of the grand finals, and High Voltage will have taken 3rd place. Ladies and gentlemen, High Voltage now on defense. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble, trying to stay alive, trying to get to the finals. Like you said, Christian, a 113 in E5, 2 140s, 2 T22s, and an RU 251 for High Voltage, and IS4, 2 140s and 907, 2 STBs, and an AMX 1390. High Voltage is on defense. If their last defense is any indication, they will be able to block this one, but Noble's going to have to throw them a big curveball. Looks like they're going to start heading over mostly into the east, perhaps a little bit in the middle. We'll see what High Voltage's response is. Right now, both teams have exactly the same amount of hit points. 13,300 on each side of the field here.
Look at what High Voltage is doing. we've seen this before. They're destroying on their way to their positions destructible buildings that could potentially get in their way if Noble were to go down over to the south, which is just so brilliant. They're not saying, hey, this is our thing and it's going to win. It's like, hey, we're going to set up ourselves for victory in multiple areas of this game.
So we can look at that real quick. These 140s would have to shoot through the tops of these buildings and a couple of these other angles in order to get resets onto the 2-cap that is lit by wall hacks right now. So they're just doing a little bit of pre-destruction to guarantee they get those angles if they need them. But right now, 113 all the way into the west. If any other spots come out, Noble is an absolutely terrible position unless this is entirely a gambit in order to pull people into that middle area. Perhaps they can fire from the east side, but you put that kind of distance in between your sniper position and where you're trying to support, and it's not going to be enough. A spot coming up from RE-251 in the east, that is enough damage, or enough intel if High Voltage wants to get real crazy with it in the west side. And perhaps some isolation is already starting to occur. 113 driven by Canadian Impact. He's going to get out of there immediately knowing he's at risk.
Yeah, I was going to say Canadian Impact has to get out of there or the rest of High Voltage would be able to just kind of barrel down on positions. He's moving now on top of the hill. He will be able to spot out Arclet here. Maybe no, just barely dodging a shot from one of those two STBs on the side of High Voltage. And now that the northwestern cap is not really an option for Noble, David, what do you see them doing next?
Well, right now, Noble is doing everything they need to do, actually. They've cleared the eastern side. They've pushed High Voltage into the positions they want, and now they're going to rotate back around the northwestern side and support Canadian Impact, essentially. He's cutting the map from the 3-line east. All they have to do is pick up wall hacks, and from there they might be able to convert a little bit more into a better position. But right now, High Voltage ahead in the hit points, and now starting to take up the 3-line west in a favorable manner. Marsh taking a lot of damage. He is one shot from going down, and High Voltage starting to look even better, second by second.
Now, if that RU-251 goes down, David, I mean, that's a scout on a map like Muravanka. How important is Marsh right now to Noble?
It's always important to have that additional scout here on Muravanka. Anytime it's a very big map like that, you just simply cannot afford to lose tanks.
All right, so definitely, as you can see, Marsh getting away from the fight right now. Noble trying to either create and adapt to what High Voltage has put them in right now, or possibly this is the plan from the beginning to bait High Voltage to get into the center, into a death trap. High Voltage, though, still looking more and more pretty to win this by the minute.
Strange decision by High Voltage, leaving that great position with both of those STBs, allowing Dodoma and Germ to come in from behind, and now bottling themselves into a corner of the map that they otherwise had under control. I hope they had a good reason for that, because that might have been the game right then and there. Before that, it was looking a lot like one of those Himmelsdorf battles, basically stagnant across the board, but High Voltage getting in the shots and all the little soak points they could possibly get. But now that they've fallen back, it looks like they've fallen back into a fairly safe place. They are on defense, so there is a chance that could work. And 730 going out on Canadian Impact.
A shot there coming out from Dodo to try to help out, to fire onto Anthief in that 140, but nothing's going to connect. Noble, it seems like for every single little bit of area of the map that they're trying to gain, High Voltage is there to punish them. They're doing a great job from it. Militant is now just surrounded. He's going to start taking a lot of shots there from High Voltage. Bird Thief and Arclet starting to chime in there. Militant dropping down to now half health in that 140. Meanwhile, cap pressure being applied from Noble. 4 minutes on the clock, so they have 4 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen, to either destroy every single member of High Voltage to cap successfully. If they don't, that is their chance of the grand finals gone. And High Voltage will take third place. A lot on the line right now. 20 seconds on the clock. Let's see what happens, but Militant goes down to wall hacks. That is a huge pickup there for High Voltage.
And Noble now down 3,000 hit points, but 13 seconds left on the clock. This is their only chance of coming back. Unless they can get an incredible amount of damage. High Voltage will stop their cap, and 8 seconds left.
7 seconds. Blue Boys captain comes around the side, now down to 5. They're looking for a reset. Blue Boys take the shot. He doesn't just get a reset. He takes down a tank. Marsh now falling, leaving just 4 members now as Blue Boys finds Canadian Impact. Ladies and gentlemen, this looks like the beginning of the end here for Noble. High Voltage. Oh, that might have spoken too soon. Noble getting a double kill there, taking out Anthief and Bird Thief. Blue Boys captain finding a Kula there. Friction takes down Blue Boys captain. Dodo and Germ now, along with Friction, are the only ones alive for Noble. 4 tanks on the side of High Voltage. Oxy's now coming to join the fight. He is looking at Friction. He takes down Friction there, but Dodo does find Tiger Thief. It is now a 2v3. Noble holding on with all that they have got. Dodo taking a shot there is looking worse and worse for Noble. Germ is one more shot away. He will be able to get some damage there onto Arclit. Arclit is just going to ignore him completely. They know that once Dodo is out of this fight, it is all over. Wallhacks is on the reload in that 1390. Oxthief is one more shot away. Germ looks like he's going to have a shot up. Germ comes around, takes down Oxthief, and now Arclit realizes what kind of trouble he might be in. He bounces a shot onto Germ. Ladies and gentlemen, Noble might be in this. Dodo coming in from the back. Arclit though bouncing a nice shot. Wallhacks 1390 coming in strong. That looks like it's gonna be the game. Wallhacks takes it out there. Noble is not going to the grand finals. High Voltage has picked up third place here in our Las Vegas finals for season 2. What an amazing battle from both of the teams. A lot closer than we thought, but High Voltage High Voltage, fantastic job there.
And
Wallhacks.
Simp standing right next to us celebrating so much. We're going to Poland.
That's
I know,
right.
boys.
That's
I
right.
know.
Simp and Eclipse, congratulations, are now going to Poland. So all they're going to be fighting for the final battle is that first place and $75,000. They've got to be feeling so good right now, David.
Wallhacks to save the day. Who would have thought?
Now, who would have thought 1390, so many plays in this entire battle, penetrating in the E100, taking it down itself, finding a victory there right at the end. As you guys can see, all the players hugging, shaking hands. There's a great camaraderie between both of these teams here, but congratulations again to High Voltage. David, walk me through before we go on, just that final moment right there. It got down extremely close.
There was something that High Voltage was trying to do that just wasn't working out well enough. Perhaps the reload of Wallhacks was not communicated well. I believe he did short clip by one shot, which might have been what Arclit was banking on. Maybe that's why he wasn't looking. I don't know.
And the bounce?
Maybe he missed that shot. The bounce is a very tense situation, but Wallhacks always good in the clutch.
Wallhacks coming in. It doesn't matter if my entire team bounces. I'm just going to put him on my back and carry it. Again, congratulations not only to High Voltage for securing third place, but for Eclipse and Simp, thank you for reminding me, now guaranteeing their spots in the Global Grand Finals happening in Warsaw, Poland, April 8th and 9th. Make sure you guys tune in to that. Well, that is our third and fourth place match done. The pie in Trevor's face, that went a little bit differently than I thought. I was really thinking that Trevor's face would have been able to stand up pretty well to the pie, but the pie definitely won that one. Congratulations to pie. Right now, we have Meadowhawk standing by High Voltage. Meadowhawk, take it away.
Thank you, Christian. I am here with Arclit from High Voltage. You guys just secured yourself $17,000. How does that feel?
Well, to be honest, we feel disappointed because we lost the spot on the grand finals. And this was basically a fun match for us. I feel like we play better when we care less. So it was too much pressure to handle against Sim because it was a lot of things in mind. I guess people just tunnel visioned a lot and a lot of mistakes. But in this match, we just played our best without caring about the outcome.
Okay, and here we go. So now, with the live, we have $17,000. You upset Noble. You're kind of playing some spoilers. How does playing the spoilers feel as opposed to, not winning all the money?
It feels bad. What do you think?
That is true. And we're going over to Jose now with some more announcements.
And that is right. We have just seen an incredible matchup for that third place spot, and $17,000, which is no chump change. But coming up next, we have the main event of the evening, the one everyone has been waiting for. But now that we know both teams are going to be going to the grand finals, they're only going to be playing for $75,000 and $50,000 when one of them gets a trophy. So which one wants the trophy a little bit more? We're going to find out just how these two teams got here to this spot in the finals.